If what it would take to bring an end to the massacre of Christians that has been on for almost 2 decades is for countries that have the might and the power to put an end to it to step in, that also is a welcome development. For almost 20 years, we have called on you to save us. You haven't. Someone from far away picked it up and he has decided these people need help. Why should we turn it down? Why should we not hope for that help to come? Nigeria has become sort of a country where the government finds it comfortable running the government governance by propaganda. A whole lot of things could be going on, and then the world would be fed with something entirely different. And security-wise, I'm talking about the Christian genocide. The pattern basically became consistent to what a genocide is. And then the toll was massive. So in a single attack, you could have as high as 50 people, you could have as high as 500, you could have as high as 300. Last month ago in Yelawata in Benue State, 258 people were killed in one night. There's nothing to learn to endure when every day you go to mass grave and then you see 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 women, some with 1, 2 children, possibly below the age of 4, maybe 1 is 3, 1 is 2, just been thrown into a shallow grave and covered up because some Islamist came in the name of his God and just wasted them and left. When they come to a community, the mission is not just to kill. The mission is to put to death in the most gruesome manner. We don't want war. We don't want to kill people. We don't want to take anybody's land. The best we would do is to share the love of Christ. But we don't need to rape your wife to accept Jesus. Why should that be happening to us? We want it to stop, and we have endured it for almost 2 decades. So the world must come to our rescue.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I want to thank you once again for joining us at the speansee show. Please like, subscribe, click that notification button so we get information out. You can get information in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest, an exclusive right here with Zariyi Yusuf of Nigeria. He's a teacher, freelance in research and translations consultant. And he's been very outspoken about what is happening in Nigeria. I want to thank you for your courage to come out. Thank you
so much. It's a pleasure to be here too.
Thank you. We've heard about the problems in Nigeria, mainly across the border, but I guess it might be in other places. But in Sudan and Sahel, it was really bad. We've always heard about it. But now on X and other platforms, we're seeing the actual what is happening, and it's horrific. It's just to see some of these videos that people put out of the massacres that are taking place right now in that area. And this apparently has been going on for a while, but now people are seeing it. And I don't think anybody without a heart, soul, mind, or conscience can get past what is happening and sleep at night. So can you explain to us what is happening right now?
Well, thank you so much. You see, Nigeria has become sort of a country where the government finds it comfortable pretty much running the government governance by propaganda. In other words, a whole lot of things could be going on, and then the world would be fed with something entirely different. And if I can't say that in a political sense and in an economic sense, I'd say that in the case of security. And security-wise, I'm talking about the Christian genocide. The idea of a Christian genocide didn't just begin today, because a whole lot of those who deny it try to make it look as if maybe Senator Ted Cruz just woke up in the morning and decided, hey, let's pick on Nigeria. Let's tell the Christians there is a genocide when it doesn't even exist. And they will pick it up, and then we'll have a problem, and then we'll bring in our military. And, but long before now, the Christian Association of Nigeria did understand the pattern of these killings. Okay, there are killings. A lot of times we just refer to them as religious crisis. But then it looked as if, and most of the time it happened in the urban centers. So basically, you find one part dominated by Christians up against another part dominated by Muslims. So it did look like a case of two fighting. So it was easy to just dismiss it as such. But after a while, that sort of died down. But then something else happened in the countryside, or started happening in the countryside. We had armed Islamists. As at the time, they referred to them as unknown gunmen. So they go into Christian communities, they kill people, and then the government doesn't know who they are, the military doesn't know who they are. The people say, we know who they are. They are Fulani people, they are Muslims, they are Islamists. And they say, no, they're lying. More or less, they are trying to create some form of hatred against, they are just trying to create some form of hatred against the people. But with time, it became obvious because the common denominator between different parts of Nigeria's middle belt, predominantly Christian, was it's the same people that do the killings. So from referring to them as unknown gunmen, the story of Farmer Haida clash came up. And so the people would say it's not a clash, it's just a well-armed group that comes into these communities and it kills people and it goes away. So all of the mass graves are filled with Christians. The damages happen to Christians. The homes are destroyed. They are of Christians. The communities deserted are Christian communities. If it was a clash, they would also show damages we did to them. But we don't have the guns. We don't have RPGs. We don't have AK-47s and all of that. So, but what basically made it a problem, why the Christian Association of Nigeria, as at the time, that's over 10 years ago, described it as a genocide, was because the pattern basically became consistent to what a genocide is. Basically, specifically targeting communities. And then the toll was massive. So in a single attack, you could have as high as 50 people, you could have as high as 500, you could have as high as 300. Just what happened about last month ago in Yelawata in Benue State, 258 people were killed in one night. So you could picture a scenario where there is a country that seemed peaceful, okay? But you could actually kill 400 people in one night. And in the morning, everybody goes about their business, talking about something else. It just doesn't make sense. So it's a whole lot of mess down here. And the Christians have endured it for almost 2 decades. It's just that by some miracle, God decided that the world has chosen to now listen and to look into what's happening. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And now we're seeing the live events taking place to where this isn't just something we hear about, but when it's something you see, it really hurts. I mean, it really hits you hard. Now we've seen, I think the world has seen what happened on October 7th when, that took place, that catastrophe took place in Israel with Hamas. And I believe with 1,200 people were killed. And then we saw what happened in Pahalgam. A lot of people in India where 26 terrorists were, or 26 people were killed, innocent. I think they were Hindus at the moment by the hands of terrorists. And it was kind of a targeted effort on both. But what we did see India do was they attacked Pakistan and all their terrorist camps inside of them. Overnight, it was almost a bloody war, almost a world war, and almost nuclear war. And we
That's
saw
right.
what Israel did because their people were attacked. This is what governments do when their people are being massacred by anyone. Why hasn't the Nigerian government, why wouldn't the Nigerian government just take it out and say, you're not going to do this no more. These are our people that you're killing, whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever. And I can specifically we can see that it's majority Christian, and these aren't Christians with the guns, right? These are Muslims with the guns.
That's right.
They're killing people that are outside of their box or their world. But why? What kind of government allows something like this to happen within its border? I don't understand that part. I don't think America understands how this is, they would be let. So there's a lot of questions to.
That's right. Yeah, so it does look like a difficult thing to understand, but it's actually not that difficult. And I think the explanation would come from how the present regime, the ruling party came into power.
Mm.
When at first Boko Haram broke out, it was localized in the northeastern part of the country. Boko Haram, the terrorist group, is an Islamist group. It made its manifesto clear. It wanted a complete removal of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a full implementation of Sharia. And
Wow.
so they're primarily on pastors, Christians, and you may remember the Chibok girls, about over 270 of them were taken, predominantly Christians. And one of the things they did, they made sure that the precondition for releasing any one of them was that they renounced their faith.
Oh, wow.
Okay? But it turned out that some politicians from the northern part of the country, Muslims particularly, kept churning out, spinning out a different narrative, making it look as if it wasn't an Islamist group. It's just a group of young people who are facing a lot of economic hardship, who do not have jobs. And then if the economy was better, they wouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So the Islamist group is making its point clear to people, Islamization, while some politicians were fabricating narratives. So from that moment, it did appear that there was something deeper where we clearly see a case of Islamists trying to do what we refer to as expansionist in nature, to spread their religion by whatever means necessary. But then it turned out that some of the politicians that would have pushed for the elimination of this terrorist are spinning out a different narrative. So we came from that background. And because that group was proscribed, every other Islamist group that spread to other parts of the country, predominantly, especially the ones carrying out the massacres in Nigeria's Middle Belt, the bloodshed, the Christian genocide, they took all kinds of forms. They call some of them, bandits. They call some of them kidnappers. They call some of them armed herders. They call some of them known gunmen and all of that. But whatever name they would carry, it seemed they must not be known as Islamists. And then the government kept, prior to the emergence of this ruling party in 2015, we were close to actually eliminating Boko Haram. But some people believed that while they may be terrorists, because the president then was a Christian, so there was this falsehood that he is actually trying to depopulate the Muslim people by, hiding under the guise of eliminating terrorists.
Right.
So the war against terrorism, Boko Haram became frustrated. Now, as at the time, the government was not a friend of terrorists. Of course, the war against terrorism as at the time was not as good as people would have wanted, especially with the kidnapping of the girls. But the government was not a friend of terrorists. It wasn't offering handshakes. He was not engaging in negotiations with them. He was just eliminating them and all of that. So there was the story that he is a Christian trying to just kill Muslims. As a matter of fact, there is this pro-Taliban cleric by the name of Sheikh Isa Ali Pantani, who primarily said in tears, saying they are not happy with the way they are killing members of Boko Haram. They may be terrorists, but they are Muslim brothers, so they shouldn't be just killed like pigs and all of that. So there was this rejection of the war against Boko Haram as at the time. Now, security got worse because it was difficult. Then the ruling party was in opposition. Now, once the ruling party came into power, something drastically changed. We had tens of thousands of people in refugee camps, in IDP camps. But then the government engaged in something they called amnesty program. In other words, terrorists come out in their hundreds, and then the government takes them. The government drives them around town, flies them around town in something they call de-radicalization, educating them, placing them on stipends and all of that. Now, they were enjoying all of these things while their victims were wallowing away in dehumanizing conditions in IDP camps. And so people began criticizing what was happening. But it did look as if, well, They are Muslim brothers at the end of the day because the president took over power, was a Muslim, General Muhammadu Buhari. And even prior to his coming to power, he was quoted as saying the war against Boko Haram is a war against the Muslim North. So it did appear that there was, although they recognized they were terrorists, a proscribed group, there was a sympathy they had simply because they shared a similar faith and likely the same ideology, which is the jihadist mentality or the full-scale Sharia mentality. So the APC, the ruling party, has been in government since 2015. That background of we need to compensate them, we need to de-radicalize them, we need to reintegrate them into the society and possibly put them in strategic places in our security architecture took off from that point. Now, when you have a situation where that group, either Boko Haram, either the Fulani Islamist militia, either La Kurawa, all of the new terrorist groups that sprang up, when they go to a community and kill people, what you would expect is the government to unleash its fury on them. But it looks as if, hey, let's get this Islamic cleric to go and talk to them. Let's try to know what they are doing. Like the fellow you saw me with arguing, he believes that Nigeria owes him some form of appreciation for trying to appease the terrorists. He kept using the word appease them. And someone would wonder, what are you appeasing them for?
Right.
Where are they coming from, with all of those arms and all of that. So that basically is a policy of the government. So if you would ask me, I'd say to you, especially with the Islamist militia in Nigeria's Middle Belt, where the Christian genocide is taking place, it does look like the policy of the government is not to engage them with aggression, but they call it non-kinetic approach. So it does look like they would just negotiate with them and then they would see reason to stop killing Christians. So it's a government policy. That's just the best.
Wow, I've never heard of a policy like that.
Well, it's not, yeah, it's not exactly written or spoken, but if for almost 2 decades, okay, speansee, for almost 2 decades, there are massive killings by an Islamist group. And it looks as if, because in the Middle Belt, we don't know of the military to just go into the forest and kill them.
Sure.
We do know that when they kill people, they'd say, let's have some peace talk. So, and we've asked a number of times, when you say peace talk, when you say peace treaty, who are we having the peace with?
Right.
Have they agreed that they are the ones that came to our community and massacred our women? Have they accepted that they are the ones that killed our people, destroyed our crops, raped our women? Well, if they are the ones, then why are you not eliminating them? Why are they sitting on the other side of the table?
Right.
The late president, General Muhammadu Buhari would always say, perhaps if we want the killings to stop, we should give them land for ranches. It should be a private business, but why would you kill people and hope that they should save themselves by handing over the ancestral lands to you? It just doesn't make sense. That's why I said I think it's a policy, maybe an unwritten kind of policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the government just will not engage them in that sense.
Wow. That's not what you just brought up. I mean, that's a very good point, because what we saw like in Israel and in Palestine, and then what we saw the terrorist attacks in India, now that you mention it, it's just coming to me, but they were for land grabs. They were to cut off a piece of section so we can live here. But I don't know who would want to live next to those people personally.
Yep.
Nigeria is Nigeria. Nigeria shouldn't have to cut off no land for anybody.
No.
It's a sovereign nation. Everybody knows that. And they should not have to cut off a piece of land for terrorists. For their people have to live next to until the next time they want to grab more land. It doesn't sound normal. What is the church's role that you see in helping these matters throughout the world?
Well, I will tell you that I am a bit disappointed with the Nigerian church. Of course, not all of the Christian leaders, because we've had great men like Prophet Isa Ebuba, we've got Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, we've got Pastor Paul Enenche, we've got many other heroes who have used their pulpit, to call out this evil.
Mm.
But the church as a body, the church leaders coming together to basically make a statement as one body. It does seem they are either too close to the government, they are either too cowardly, or they do not care, or they are just too spiritual, believing miraculously God will just bring help from somewhere.
Right.
But what I would have expected the church to do was to have been the first to let the world know that this is a genocide. Of course, the Christian Association of Nigeria did that at some point, but it was just press statements and all of that. Of course, the church would have found its way to different parts of the world, different platforms, take advantage of social and mainstream media. And the church should have given Christians a form of direction.
Yeah.
An example is the church should have encouraged Christians
Yeah.
to explore options of self-defense.
Yes.
Because I can tell you nothing is as painful as burying people every now and then. It's just so painful. You just live, you just want to grow your crops, you just want to train your children, you just want to live your life, contribute to society, build families. And somebody just comes in the middle of the night and he just kills people. He kills mother, he kills child, he kills the old, he kills the young. And you wake up in the morning and all they tell you is, well, turn the other cheek. Well, the Bible says we would face, persecutions and all of that. So the church has not given so much of a direction
Mm.
to the members of the church, to the Christians, with regards to practically how to confront these matters. So I feel the church has failed Nigeria in this regard because you just have individuals speaking up against it, but not the body coming together and saying Christians in Nigeria have taken this stand. That has not happened. But I see a lot of voices coming up lately, and I hope that direction will be given
Absolutely.
because we just live on our own. The ease with which communities are isolated and massacred is reflective of how nonchalant, how weak the response of the church, of the Nigerian church has been. And that's a bit disappointing. The prophetic role there is not being played well.
For sure. For sure. And what do you guys think? What does most of Nigeria say? Well, I know you can't speak for all of them, but um, because Trump came out and literally said it's Christian genocide.
That's right.
It's Christian genocide. And I mean, he doesn't slur his words. He's usually pretty straightforward and he's got pretty good intel on what is actually happening because, those satellites up there can tell you if that snake is dangerous on the ground or not. Um, so they've seen what's going on. And what's your reaction to how the United States and Donald Trump is handling their end of this so far to what they've been saying?
Well, I think it's a welcome idea that the United States finally is seeing it as it is. For instance, you would want to ask, for so many years, the Christians have been saying, this is a genocide against us. This is a genocide against us.
Right.
The government didn't really seem bothered about it. It's not exactly as if it's the first time the government is hearing the Christians saying, this is a genocide.
Right.
But what makes it different now is because possibly a country that means business has basically looked at it and said, yes, this is a Christian genocide.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that as a welcome idea that the United States has recognized or has looked into the matter and has seen it as it is. That's one. That we have been redesignated as a country of particular concern, to me, is a welcome idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how other people feel, but there is nothing fun, there's nothing to learn, to endure when every day you go to mass grave and then you see 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 women, some with 1, 2 children, possibly below the age of 4, maybe one is 3, one is 2, just being thrown into a shallow grave and covered up because some Islamist came in the name of his God and just wasted them and left. And then it happens this year, it happens another year, it happens another year. And all the government keeps telling you is some climate change induced crisis, some farmer hider clash, some mutual cycle of violence, according to one presidential aide. by criminal gangs and all of that. So the Christian says, no, there isn't any mutual violence. They are not criminal. They are just women, children, and old people in their communities. Nobody listens.
Right.
But today somebody is listening. And somebody that I believe has the moral power, the wherewithal to put an end to it. You could see the ups and downs in the Nigerian government saying all kinds of things, beginning to bring out news about decimating terrorists and all of that, even though I don't believe that. But I perceive that as a welcome development.
Mm.
And if what it would take to bring an end to the massacre of Christians that has been on for almost 2 decades is for countries that have the might and the power to put an end to it to step in. That also is a welcome development.
Right.
But I think the only option is for Nigeria to have to switch and say, all right, we are coming after not just the terrorists, but those who sponsor those terrorists. I'm sure that might make sense to Donald Trump. But for as long as the country is determined to deny an obvious fact, which is the Christian genocide, then it does mean that the Christians are very much open to welcome any intervention that stops the killing
Right.
of their wives, their children, and their relatives.
Right. That's kind of what we're hearing over here, and what we're seeing is it seems like the people who are going through this in the villages and the cities that are being massacred and being tormented every, you know, so often whenever these terrorists feel like it. It seems like they're the ones who really should have the say so in this. Do you want help from anywhere, or do you just want it from your government? How do you want this? Because I mean, the whole world should be involved in this. India, Russia, China, the United States. Everybody should be joining hands and saying we should all come together, even with Nigeria, and let's do something, put our heads together and fix this problem. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see that happening as a combined effort for, I mean, every country. I would love to see that. That would be welcome, I think, right?
Well, it's not, to be honest with you, the Christians have been quite patriotic, have been quite trusting of the Nigerian government because
Okay.
I'll tell you one of the reasons why it a lot of people have asked, why don't you just fight? Why don't you just defend yourselves? Why don't you just arm yourself and face these people?
Mhm.
I think it comes from the fact that the Nigerian church, much as I feel has not done so much in that regard, but has been able to guide the Christians to look up to the government as the authority that has the responsibility of protecting lives and properties. So maybe the church or the Christians trusted the government too much
Mm.
because I mean you could not have had Christian militia groups taking out Muslims in their hundreds in their communities,
Right.
shouting the name of Jesus, saying glory, hallelujah, while they're massacring them, the way they shout Allahu Akbar while they're doing to Christians. And then the country will still be in peace.
Right.
But the Christians happen to just be like that. I mean, you find pastors who would tell you, I'm just coming back from a burial, 200 people. I'm just coming back from a burial, 30 people. And when they mount the pulpit, they don't say revenge. They don't say arm yourselves and defend yourself because they just want to call upon the government because of that belief that the government will do it. So it's not as if the Christians have chosen to just rebel. It's more or less for almost 20 years, we have called on you to save us. You haven't. Someone from far away picked it up and he has decided these people need help.
Yeah.
Why should we turn it down? Why should we not hope for that help to come?
Right. And it's odd that another when we're seeing these things, I don't, you've probably seen them all over X, all these videos that are going that are just almost unbearable to watch. Um, that children and mothers, and infants even, what what's the benefit from unaliving these? What are they going to do? I mean, if it was a battle of a military versus military, I get it, where they come together and they clash over certain ideologies being wrong or different. But to go in and just like families, that it would have, what does it benefit Boko Haram or is ISWAP or the what does it benefit them to just to kill innocent children?
At some point, I used to think it, Perhaps it's a ritual. I used to think that maybe it's a ritual, and then
Mm,
when they come to kill people, what they do to pregnant women, I mean, there have been women whose bellies have been ripped open. I
yeah.
need to know that. So it looked as if maybe it's a ritual. So when we go to kill, let's make sure we do this to one woman or two women or three women and all of that. But what I've come to understand as I interface with communities, meet survivors, and all of that, it does seem that it's a strategy that they have. When they come to a community, the mission is not just to kill, the mission is to put to death in the most gruesome manner.
Yeah.
So when the story goes out, you hear how, for instance, in Yelawata in Benue State, I mean, I visited that location after the attack. I saw a room that was broken, and you might have seen the picture, but there was a woman with a baby, nursing baby, and then two other kids. And they just sprayed bullets on them. I think they
Oh, yeah.
didn't even wake up from their sleep. They just killed them.
Mm,
Okay. Now these are just civilians. This is an agrarian community.
mm,
They are not armed. Why would you do that to a woman?
right.
So I think they do that to send a clear signal that in the course of pursuing their ideology, they are willing to do all kinds of evil. So it's a way of striking fear into the next community.
Mm,
So more like you just live with that fear, you just live in dread. And once they show up, your best option is to either run away or you let them kill you. And I must tell you, they are so cowardly
mm,
because their warfare so far has not been confrontational.
right.
They lurk around in the night, people are asleep, they study the communities, they know, okay, they don't have any resistance. It's a soft target. And they come in, they keep calling the name of their God, they keep killing whoever they find, they keep using machetes to open people's skulls, to do all kinds of evil, and then they take their leave.
Wow.
Okay. So it's just, I think it's satanic,
Yeah.
the spirit they carry. Perhaps it's a doctrine they maintain because I don't know, even in a normal warfare between two militaries, there might be a measure of mercy you would have if possibly you just met 10 women carrying guns. You might want to say, okay, let's scare them and take off the guns and possibly lock them up or something. But I mean, you shoot a mother in her sleep, a nursing child in his sleep, kids in their sleep, and you believe you are worshiping God. I mean, it's insane.
It's mental. It's
Yeah,
mental.
it's a mental illness,
It,
but
it's
but
cr- it's
they believe they're doing something.
it's crazy.
Yeah, and then you sit on TV with a sheikh who says to you, "We need to go and appease them. We need to go ask them what they need. We need to put them on stipends. We need to de-radicalize them, and we need to recruit them into our security architecture."
So that repentance thing is a real, actually, I thought that was conspiracy theory or fake news thing.
Oh no, 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 no.
That's real?
Oh no, they I think a couple of weeks ago, hundreds of them graduated from that um, de-radicalization program. That's what they call it. But I've always asked, a satanic ideology like what these people carry, these extremists carry, do people actually heal from it? Unless, of course, somebody gives his life to Jesus on his own. But the fact that he hands you over his gun and he tells you, I'm no longer a terrorist. I don't want to kill Christians anymore. I don't see them as infidels that we should annihilate. Well, fine. Why do you need him in the military? Why do you need him in the intelligence unit? Why do you need him anywhere close to where strategic decisions are taken? All in the name of saying, well, he's been there before. Now he's here. He will help us deal with them better. I think it's just a way of sabotaging, infiltrating, our security agencies. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, if when you look at those pictures, say that you're bringing a person in, they would be bringing a person in who has done this slaughtering of a family to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've changed my ways and I'm not going to do that anymore." But
Oh yeah, in some parts they said in some parts they said they swore by the Quran that they wouldn't do it again. So I mean, a whole lot doesn't just make sense, and that's
No,
the reason why when you asked why is the Nigerian government not just killing these people,
right.
I personally felt at some point failure, weakness, and then later I thought the government might be compromised, but it does look more like a case of complicity
Yeah,
than compromise. Because what does it take to kill a terrorist? If you can't kill the terrorist, why should you sympathize with him? How do you
right.
get in touch with them and to have hundreds of them coming to repent and you create programs to de radicalize them, to do all kinds of things? It just doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
Honestly, as a Christian, I must tell you, I'm just frustrated. I don't know what to think. I don't I don't understand why the government is doing what it's doing. Well, not that I don't understand, but I mean, what is the fun in how comfortable would anybody be, even if it was your enemies dying in hundreds for 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years, and then you keep trying to make peace with the people killing them.
Right.
And it's not exactly as if they are going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah. And if it, and say, sorry, and if it was, if I was in the military and I had somebody like that standing next to me and we went into battle against these people, I don't know how safe I would feel with the group of people next to me who've repented for being on the other side. Would they turn their guns on, its own military to support the cause? I mean, there's so many ways to think about how
Yep,
this is not a
that's
good
right.
idea. And pure
Yes,
repent.
but that's why I said, looking at what's happening, it's logical to suspect that possibly long before now, such radicals, such extremists have already been planted in the military. And that may account to why, even if the military would genuinely or sincerely want to engage them, there would always be some form of sabotage
Yeah.
along the line. So it's a force that even the masses can't really trust so much. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's so difficult. A whole lot has been messed up.
Yeah.
The normal trust that should exist between people and the security forces that should protect them is not there anymore.
Right. I mean, they should be putting up walls or something to keep these people out. I don't, yeah, I think the whole world right now is really, it's not, it's got people confused of, how I mean, maybe if they had a Netanyahu in there, it would be a different story because most country leaders will act, even Modi of India, they acted a different way when their people were
Yeah,
treated like this. It's just not, it's just weird how the government there isn't doing anything, but I hope they can get their act together. I really do.
yeah. Wherever the seed of Islamism is sown, um, it follows with a whole lot of bloodshed.
Mhm.
So the first thing is don't allow it to just fall to the ground. Otherwise, everything is bloodshed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long it takes. They would always get there.
Yeah. And it starts with complacency, I guess, complacency over
Yeah, that's
them
right. That's right.
step by seed time and harvest.
Mm.
It's all seed time and harvest, and they've planted the seeds. Now I mean, even we can see it in America, the same thing that's happening with Nigeria right now,
Oh
where
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
it's getting there. I mean, honestly,
Yeah. And why I am concerned, sorry, maybe that's not the conversation, but why I'm a bit concerned about America. If you listen to our interview with the Sheikh, you might have had him make reference to New York
yes. Hmm.
and in solidarity to is it the mayor you call him or
Yeah.
whatsoever?
Hmm.
He had a problem with Donald Trump, saying he's an immoral man, blah, blah, blah. And simply because a Muslim became mayor in New York, Donald Trump is threatening him. And so he also said he believes, not in the interview we had, but he believes that one day a Muslim will become the president of the US, or Muslim will be in the White House and all of that. So that is a lot of concern for me because if people we see as extremists, people who sympathize with terrorists, people who speak on behalf of terrorists, begin to feel a sense of solidarity with any political leader in the United States, someone who has won an election. I think it's a sound note of warning to
Yes.
Americans.
Yeah, I agree. I think that mayoral election was a sound note of warning for the United States, and I
That's
don't know how that's going to turn out. I just got to pray for those people. I don't understand how they made that decision, but and I think he was actually part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Honestly, I think he's got ties into the Muslim Brotherhood. That's a whole other story too. But and I don't know if you have you heard about Dearborn, Florida, or
sorry.
not Dearborn, Minnesota. It's a whole
No, no, no.
city. It's a whole city in the United States now that is 90% Muslim, and they've taken
Oh
over the
wow.
city. Yeah, they've taken over the whole city. It's you they if you even they have speakers going on like once every hour with the Muslim prayers of faith, and all the city commissioners and everybody is Muslim. And
Oh
yeah,
wow.
they've taken it over. And so that was kind of like a big step towards that. And that all they all got put in there when Obama got here. He shipped about 60,000 of them over to start it, but now it's fluctuated, and America's got its own issues with this. So we're kind of we're seeing what's going on around the world, and especially in Nigeria, is
Wow.
when it
Wow.
takes full, root.
I don't know.
Where
I
where
kind of feeling that global Islamism, global jihad gained a lot of mileage under Barack Obama. I don't know, I may be wrong. I've never been to the US, but
yeah,
from out here, what I see is I think his presidency basically gave a serious uplift
oh, it did.
to the Islamists.
Yeah, the whole Democratic Party back then was just, yeah, it changed the whole specter of America, and the way you walk around. And back then, you wouldn't see any Muslims. Maybe if you saw one, you'd be like, "Oh wow, what are they wearing?" But now it's you're seeing them everywhere. So I guess yeah, that changed the whole specter of how America is actually
Yeah,
grown.
yeah.
And I have no
Mm.
problem with the peaceful Muslims. I know that there are more peaceful than not. And but when you see these things starting to take root, then you start to just get a little bit concerned. It's just
Yeah, it does happen in phases. It happens in phases, and as at the time you would realize it's a scheme, it's a long game plan. It would have been too late. I feel sorry for those in the UK, especially the English men, women, London, and different parts of the country.
yeah.
Possibly they are not in the face some of us in Nigeria are, where I mean there are children there as old as 8, 9, 10, 11, and they've been in the IDP camp. The best infrastructure they've seen is possibly that those classrooms where they've been living, where they were born and raised.
Yeah.
And so there are certain other humanitarian issues that people don't even talk about because the government will not even admit there's a humanitarian crisis. It won't admit there's genocide, even though people are displaced. Some communities have never been habited for 5, 6, sometimes 10 years. You've got
Wow.
trees growing, you've got grasses growing in places, and um, girls growing up, and because it's just an open space, people taking advantage of them and all of that. So there are a whole lot of things that go in that line. And it's an honest hope that this comes to an end, communities get rebuilt. If there are people who have occupied them, Islamists who have occupied them, even if they, one strategy is you go kill people and then you bring your women and children and then you live like civilians. So
Right.
when somebody says live, then you look like the victim. So
Right.
it's our hope that you get to sack these people. And then if they are hostiles, you get to eliminate them, but then bring the people back to their homes, to their ancestral lands, and let these children grow up in proper families and not in
Sure.
classrooms, not under the trees and all of that.
Yeah. Does Nigeria have a Second Amendment right up there to own firearms? No.
No,
I wonder if
we
they could.
don't.
Would that be some kind of maybe a plan to for the future for even maybe
Oh yeah,
clubs or
yeah.
churches
I
even?
I look forward to that because if that happened, of course, there would be a lot of laws that would regulate it. But if that happened, I'm sure a lot of people would have been alive. A lot of communities would not even have been attacked. And a lot of Islamists, regardless of how much they were paid, regardless of whether they were brought in from Mali, whether they were brought in from wherever they came from, would think twice before stepping into the country because it means communities would have organized how to defend themselves against any invading force,
Yeah.
any external aggression.
I do feel like that's one of the things that America has going forward is that, almost, I mean, I live in a neighborhood of about 40 houses, and I'd say, I don't know, half of them probably are carrying who knows what, firearms legally. And I do think that it's a very nice, it's a good thing to have, including myself. I carry, we have firearms in our house, but for self-defense. But I think that maybe other countries should be looking at that, or even if you can give it to your, if you have, bishops at a church, if you've got pastors at churches, that you can arm them, people in maybe those areas or families that are willing to step up if anything like this happened. But I just, what if a problem that we've seen in the past was the West has, and we can't deny that they have created problems for other places around the world with terrorism and using them as part of their game plan to, gain land or resources or whatever. It's part of their game plan. And we've seen that done over the years. But when we've seen missionaries and sometimes Christians bring these type of resources to other Christians in countries, like, oh, here's a drone and here's a bulletproof vest or here's this and that, then they get labeled as the Westerners, CIA, that are trying to, you know, cause friction. So what if that was to happen in Nigeria, where the Nigerian government started issuing uh, defense for those people? Would that be something that the government over there could look at?
You mean issuing defense to Nigerians? Like the
Yes.
government defense to Nigerians in
Yes.
terms of firearms and all of that?
Yeah, to the people, because it looks like these terrorists are they're cowards. If they're going to go
Yeah.
up against a couple bullets coming back,
So,
they're shooting the other
yeah,
direction.
so I think the immediate past chief of defense staff did talk about. He said it should be a basic skill, self-defense,
Hmm.
be a basic skill. You're in your home, somebody attacks, you should have some skill that should help you confront that.
Yeah.
Of course, there are cases where all you might need to do is to just run away. But what do you do in the case of somebody attacks and there's a wife sleeping and there are two or three kids sleeping in the other room? And, so a whole lot of things. And possibly mother or grandmother, maybe she's around for a couple of days to spend some time with the family. Do you just scale the fence and run away? You need some skill to defend yourself.
Mhm.
So we got to that point where one, of course, I understand the military is overstretched, but the Nigerian government will not let people get armed. I don't
Oh.
think so.
Mhm.
Because at some point, it looked as if there is a deliberate plan to just make sure that these Christian communities kept as soft targets.
I got you.
Okay?
I
They
got you.
remain
Yeah.
as soft. They are not in a position where these cowards would have to meet any obstacle.
Right.
It's just easy to just come in with sophisticated arms, kill whoever you want to kill and go back. But a scenario where they come in and then they meet another force, no matter how small, it shouldn't happen. So
Right.
yeah, so we've had a lot of our communities being disarmed in some kind of peace, truce, or whatsoever happening and all of that. But it hasn't stopped the Islamists from attacking.
Right.
So I think the Nigerian government would do that, at least not this very government.
Right.
Possibly with time. Um, I can't remember exactly how he couched it, but somebody said, um, unless the victim definitely demonstrates to the attacker that he is capable of, inflicting, uh, equally inflicting harm, the attacker doesn't fear the police, he doesn't fear the military and all of that. I know well that when I give you a slap, I won't get a slap. You would wait for the police to come and then you file a case and you report me and they call me and that's what happened and all of that. But once I know that when I punch this guy, I'm likely going to get a bullet, not even a punch, I will
Right.
think twice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe in that. I believe that at some point the victims will have to be allowed to demonstrate that they are human
Yeah.
and like every living species, once their existence is under threat,
Yeah.
uh, they would resort to self-defense.
Right. In you mentioned earlier about Boko Haram and ISWAP, and now we're hearing about the Fulani herdsmen, and you said there's others. I mean, these terrorist organizations keep popping. It's like they keep popping up. You hear one, then another one pops up. How many organizations do you think there are? How many?
Well, but Boko Haram started first.
Mhm.
Then it got to a point where I think allegiances now started getting sworn to ISIS, the international and all of that. So the Islamic State West Africa province came up, but it's more of either an offshoot of Boko Haram or another group that tried to subjugate Boko Haram. But Boko Haram still retains its rank, and then ISWAP came, likely more sophisticated at some point, and then Boko Haram gets more sophisticated in terms of their weaponry. And so Lakurawa came, uh, and then there's the one they call Mahmuda. So, but I think it's possibly, this is just my assumption, maybe they are warlords that
Mm,
have, proven their worth in terms of killing people and attacks. Possibly they keep breaking away from these. Or maybe newer organizations coming, and when they fail to find the right fitting into the old ones, they just, spread. But the common denominator is they are all pursuing one cause.
right. And that causes
Yeah,
to kill Christians, it seems like.
that's right. There's the Fulani Islamist militia, and those ones are the ones that are easier to defend and claim they are herders. No, they are hunters. In some cases, they say they are just kidnappers because they are mostly the ones uh, carrying out these mass killings and getting away with it.
Designating them as a country of particular concern. Will this or has it helped at all yet?
Well, the first time we were designated as a country of particular concern, there was a corresponding change in attitude of the government towards dealing with terrorism. There was also a reduction in, the number of attacks and all of that because it did look as if, okay, somebody is looking. But once Biden came into power, I think that was when the then President General Muhammadu Buhari came to the US and the president asked him why he was killing Christians, Donald Trump. But once Joe Biden got into power, Nigeria was off that list.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then somehow the most dangerous terrorist group, at least in terms of the number of people they kill, just became a normal group of herders. Possibly they looked like the victims themselves.
Right.
Now, sometimes they call them an oppressed ethnic nationality, okay? That there's climate change and they don't know where to feed their cattle and they travel around and then hostile communities attack them and they just need to defend themselves in some ways. But it turns out they are the ones with the AK-47, they are the ones with the RPGs, they are the ones with the, sophisticated arms. And then the hostile communities are the ones that are the soft target. So some things don't add up. So yeah, it helped then, but once Nigeria was off the list, it changed. And the killings, that was when we kept crying. We said, okay, this has taken a genocidal dimension. It's
Right.
not just targeted small attack, but it's happening in genocidal proportions because why do you kill people and occupy their communities or make sure they don't return to their communities and destroy their crops and all of that, their source of livelihood?
Right.
So it went on. But I think coming back, being redesignated as a country of particular concern would help because I'm thinking it will change how brazen the sympathy the government has for this terrorist. And perhaps we'll get to a point where not just the terrorists getting eliminated, but we begin to target those who sponsor them. Because whatever you do with them now, when the dust settles, the people running the show would kick off from wherever they stopped. So
Right.
I hope to see that happening. But it's a good thing, actually, I'd say,
But it's
that
just
we are
the but you're saying
this.
but from what you're saying, it sounds like it's just a band-aid.
Sorry?
It's just a band-aid put on a wound though that might need more than just a band-aid because the band-aid would get ripped off. Like
Yeah,
it's a band-aid on a wound that needs more attention than like
yeah, that's right. That's right.
so.
And that more attention to me is getting to eliminate the sponsors. It doesn't matter how highly placed they are in government.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Finding them and just yeah, finding these people, yeah, getting rid of their. I guess if you get rid of their money, you got them.
Yep. Get rid of their money. And, well, they don't have so much to contribute to humanity, frankly speaking, other than arming people to kill others in hundreds. So
Right.
it's all right to let them join the rest, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
all I would say from here, I guess, is like to have the church pray, 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 pray for these people in Nigeria that are going through this, and that their help comes soon. Because every day it seems like every day that this goes on, it just gets worse. And you know, I just hope to
Yeah.
see some
And
action,
I
real
don't,
action.
well, just, something came to my mind. You were saying something at some point where there are some people, I think, the idea of Pan-Africanism, they have messed it up. And you might or might not have had a lot of people saying, no, be careful with the Americans. They just want to steal your resources. Okay. Be careful with the Americans. They don't have your interest at heart. They don't want this. And I usually ask myself, who has your interest at heart? Who has never said a word for almost 20 years that you're being massacred? Not one African president. Okay.
Mm.
Do we not have a president in Ghana? Do we not have Paul Kagame in Rwanda? Do we not have the South Africans? Do we not have? Are they actually ignorant of the fact that there's a Christian genocide? No, there is not. But who has picked the moral responsibility to say, hey, put an end to it? Because I think if I understand Donald Trump's message, he says, end this. If you
Yeah.
can't end this, we will have to come in and do it.
Right.
And then the government is busy insisting the Christian genocide isn't there. There isn't anything as a
Right.
Christian genocide. So some people feel everything must have a conspiracy behind it. So if
Right.
you were a missionary and you felt, hey, okay, there's this camp, they need drugs, they need clothing, they need food, and let me come into Nigeria and help. Somebody believes, okay, you came to plant something, you came to gather information so that tomorrow you come and attack and all of that. And I think it's unfortunate.
Mhm.
Um, so basically, the moment he is white, you will have to create a conspiracy around it. Basically, so we have forgotten that we are humans. Of
Yeah.
course, not everybody is perfect. And usually, I've always asked, America is not perfect morally, but what would you say of a country where a genocide is going on, and then the sitting government, a genocide of the citizens of that country is happening, and sitting government of that country is denying it?
Mm.
As bad as we would ever think of the United States, do you think there would be a genocide in the US today?
Mm.
And then Donald Trump, his cabinet, and some leaders, some social media personnel would come out and tell the world, hey, forget about those people crying. There's nothing happening. We're all fine. We don't need help.
Mhm.
Everything's good. Would the Americans actually do that?
No.
Bad as anybody would think of them. Yeah, but then we are under a regime that is denying an obvious fact.
Right.
Yes, the person offering to help is the one they want to demonize.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. It's something is wrong with that thinking.
Yeah. I agree
Yeah,
100%. 100%. Even I mean, I never really particularly cared for Netanyahu of Israel, but I understand the protection that he was offering. I think he went a little bit too far, but I do understand how he avenged the
yeah,
people that were his responsibility. Because
that's
when
right.
somebody is killed like that or brutally attacked and innocent people, but the way he avenged it, the way he was like, okay, this is never happening again. I will destroy the world if I have to for these 1,200 people that suffered like they did that were under my watch. Because I feel like even Tinubu where's that heart of Tinubu saying, these people will not die under my watch. These people are not, nobody's going to come into my country and kill my citizens like this, especially. And we're seeing it. he's got to have seen it
Yeah. You
without
know,
putting your foot down, saying no more,
yeah,
no
that's right.
more.
Yeah, no
You're all
more.
dead.
Pretty much like what the US did after 9/11.
Yeah,
So and I think it's a
he
double
went
sword.
nuts.
It's a double sword. On one edge, it tells the enemy, no, you don't get to do this and get away with it. So you won't try it again. And it tells the citizens, the people you are leading, that I could turn the whole world upside down to protect you. So
Yeah.
it builds trust.
Mhm.
It boosts your sense of patriotism. You are proud to belong to such a country
Yeah.
where something happens to you and then everything holds, especially in cases of terrorist attacks, until it is avenged.
Mhm.
But a scenario where I'm no longer in my home, I'm in an IDP camp, and if I have access to TV or a phone, I see a general, I see a government official shaking hands with the people who chased me out of my home
Mm.
because
Mm-mm.
they have repented of their sins.
Mm-mm.
And they're going to get the special care that I don't even get a 10 of in the IDP camp. So something is just fundamentally wrong with that, I think.
Yeah, it vary because we note in the we go to a court of government in a sovereign country. Usually, you'll see a judge who say has a murderer on trial. A murderer's on trial, right? And the judge isn't opening up the Bible to pass this guy's law down. He's opening up the statute that they created for all religions and saying, okay, this is the mandatory law for what you did. You can repent. If you repent about it, you're going to accept your sentence and say, I'm guilty. I repent. Do what you must. I can't believe I did such a thing. But a judge isn't going to open up the Bible or a Quran and say, okay, well, we're going to offer you repentance today. That's I just don't get that as far as the government doing that over there. Sounds like that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Law of
Or
repentance.
like, yeah, I remember they said they swore, they swore by the Quran to no longer do what they're going to do, and that's fine. So I don't believe in the Quran as a Christian. What am I supposed to do? If I was in the military, because he swore by the Quran to not do what he was doing, we go out together. Or if I was in a community, you settle them there. If I was in an office, you employ him because he swore by the Quran, a man I know, to rape women, to kill people, to
Right.
hate infidels.
Right.
So lots of things don't add up.
Nope. But hopefully we can get them to add up soon as long as the people, people like you start keep on coming out and keeping the book open for people to see what's going on and to hear what's going
That's right.
on.
That's
So,
right.
is there anything else you wanted to add to this? Because I think your words here are going to touch a lot of people and help them understand a lot about what's going on.
So here's just the end of the matter.
Okay.
And I believe I speak for every Christian in Nigeria. We want to live our lives. We want to go back to our homes. We want the countryside to be safe. We want to thrive as a people. We don't want war. We don't want to kill people. We don't want to take anybody's land. We don't, the best we would do is to share the love of Christ. But we don't need to rape your wife to accept Jesus. Why should that be happening to us?
Right.
We want it to stop. Okay? And we have endured it for almost 2 decades. So the world must come to our rescue.
Mm.
That's right. Many of the people that are in the IDP camps, they don't have access to platforms like this.
Mm.
So, except sometimes we visit them and they talk. I remember a woman, we delivered medical supplies, food items, and she said, I appreciate what you are doing, but for how long would you keep doing this, bringing food, bringing medical supplies? Why can't we just go back to our homes and we could go to the farm, we could feed ourselves, we could raise our children.
Right.
Do we have to live by getting arms every day? How long would you do it?
Right.
And how many other camps do you have to be going to? That was a heartfelt cry.
Mm.
She appreciates it, but for how long?
Yeah.
For how long? So it has to stop. It's a Christian genocide, and all we want is an end to it.
And ladies and
All right.
gentlemen, I want to thank you all for joining us here today. I will leave links. Zariyi Yusuf?
That's right.
Zariyi Yusuf? Is that good? I'll leave all the links below, and you'll see them during the. I'm sure you see them below them right now as you're going to be watching this. But all the links are as well on the in the down below, so you can go click on him. You can go follow him, and he will keep you up to date on what is actually happening in Nigeria. Just that he's the boots on the ground over there kind of guy, and we would really want to appreciate you and say thank you for everything that you're doing. We see it over here in the United States, and I'm sure your fellow brothers and sisters in Nigeria see this as well. And I just want to say thank you, sir, for stepping out and with your. It was courageous of you to do this today, and we are blessed to have somebody like you on our show. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.